Just seeing Joe House makes me hungry. Just seeing Sal on a Zoom makes me feel like football season is starting. How many days away are we, Sal?
Yeah, 94 days, 95 days, 94 days. 94 sounds better.
I miss it more than ever this year.
I know.
Got a new quarterback. You have the last year with your quarterback. Next year, your quarterback's going to be Gardner Minshew. House has a new quarterback.
We just had this test drive this past week of no basketball, hockey finishing up. I'm like, what am I going to watch? What are we doing?
Well, I'll tell you what we're going to watch. I was watching Oklahoma with a walk-off on the Softball World Series today, and I was actually like genuinely enjoying it. I'm like, welcome to the summer. We're going to have the Olympics, right, Sal? We're going to have
the US Open. The Olympics. Thank God for the Olympics.
WNBA, US Open coming up next week, House. I should remind you.
Sure
a lot of
is.
good stuff.
I'm aware.
We'll be all right.
BS, did you win money on that Oklahoma walk-off?
No, I haven't crossed the line yet on betting on softball, but I think I'm emotionally and physically ready for it. Yeah. The big thing for me is this summer for me in House, the Olympic basketball is going to be, I think, out of control. I'm going to have all kinds of thoughts. There's going to be that quarterfinals where there's 4 games in one day. We're going to do all kinds of parlays. We're going to talk NBA finals and the gambling aspects of the NBA finals. I know you guys have poured over all the bets. Sal, I've deliberately not talked to you too much about this because I was kind of hoping to rope you into a podcast. I've talked to House a lot about it. I know some of House's thoughts. What's your biggest angle heading into the finals?
Well, my biggest angle is, as much as I want to see like you and Hench disappointed, I understand everybody on the Ringer staff gets a 3.3% raise if the Celtics hang a banner. So this is that in the
CBA? I didn't see that.
Did you see, House? You got that email from the desk of Juliet Littman. We all get a 3% raise.
Yeah,
and I think a signed camouflage hoodie from Rosillo or something. I don't know.
What about my finals golf shirt? House, you jealous? Right. See that people listening can see this.
They didn't send that to me. What do I got to do?
It's a 2022 final shirt Hershey gave me.
Oh, 2022. That's
look
fine.
At that.
You can have that one.
Even though we lost this finals, I'm wearing it anyway. All right, what's your biggest angle, Sal?
Well, I want to ask you, what are you most nervous about? Because these are 3 factors, right? Like the Celtics are favored, maybe higher than they should be, but not enough to take the underdog, I don't think. In fact, I think the 3 of us have exactly the same pick in terms of specific outcome. But what are you most worried about? That Porzingis comes back, screws up the flow? That you haven't faced a closer like Luka? Or that home court isn't a great advantage?
Well, I don't think home court's going to be an advantage, so I'm not even worried about that. The Porzingis, like he had the press conference today and he was like, I'm good. And he wouldn't say it was 100%, but he's like, I've practiced 2 days in a row. And I think if there's a worst case scenario for the Celtics, it's Porzingis playing and then re-injuring something and thinking that he's going to play and then that getting pulled away in game 1 or game 2 or on the road in game 3 or something like that. Because I feel like psychologically, that'll be a tough one. The thing I'm the most worried about is that the series, the more I stare at it, I just feel like the Celtics should win the finals. And all of the history and all of the math and 8 months of comparing the 2 teams. And I just feel like we're doing this whole thing with, well, Luka, and it's the best player in the series. But all of the evidence says they should win this. And I'm thinking more like if they don't win it, how am I going to feel afterwards, House? Because I'm going to feel like this is this amazing opportunity squandered. 22 is a little different. They get to the finals. It felt like they could have won, but Curry went to a whole other level and the team didn't play well. Like Tatum played bad. The shooting kind of went sideways. Derek White had a really up and down series and they weren't ready. This time around, I don't know really what the excuse would be other than Porzingis or Luka just destroys them.
See, I don't like you using all this language. Opportunity squandered. What's the excuse? I don't think that that's the right prism through which to look at this Boston team in this matchup, in these playoffs, in the era that we're kind of living in this basketball era that we're living in. Because I think the true conundrum that this series presents is, do you use your historic referentials as the framework for this thing, which is a team like the Celtics that have gone 76-20 a 20-loss team with terrific ratings on both sides of the ball, with Porzingis healthy through the vast majority of that. That's a framework. Or do you use the framework of this Dallas team, which has charted its own course post-deadline with, an identity that is very different from the identity that team possessed all the way up until the trade deadline. And just in this last month has demonstrated an identity that I think rivals in terms of what Boston brings to the table. It's a very close matchup, except for the hard thing of trying to figure out, are we using the Celtics that went 76-20, or are we using Dallas for this last month? Which one is the prevailing proper? Yeah. What's the measuring stick? So
can I just say, I hate it when House tries to sound smart and then does sound smart. It really is.
No, don't ever take him as being smart. He can sound smart.
Prisms and frameworks and everything. It's like, it's better when you fall on your face, House. This is no good. This all makes sense.
I'm definitely going to fall on my face, but this to me is the hashtag thread the needle series. Like, how can we make money on this thing? I said in one of our group chats, I bet on the Celtics to win in 6. I bet a little less on Dallas to win in 6 because it's a plus money odds. But the real thing to me
House.
Is the
betting
outcome.
on both teams to win in 6.
Of course.
Well, he just proved that he's not smart.
I'm trying to win money. I want to win. So, but I think the series going at least, the series over 5.5 games is my favorite bet. That I think is the best bet. Except I thought that in that Minnesota-Dallas series and then lost that right in the nutsack. So I'm not sure.
Well, there's one thing, Sal, with the breaks between every game. Let's figure out who that favors. Thursday, Sunday, Wednesday. So there's a lot of rest, which I think helps Porzingis and Horford more than anybody would help on the Dallas side. Because Luka seems like he's pretty good now. Like, he was looking pretty grim in round 1, but I thought by Game 5 Minnesota, he was moving pretty well. So I would say that helps Boston better, right?
I think it definitely helps. And I think back to the Porzingis thing, I think you answered that correctly. That's the biggest thing, because when you haven't played for like months now, like, or whatever it is, you're now more likely to hurt the team in game 1 at least than help, right? I mean, what's unless they're just going to ease him in, he's going to get like 12 minutes. The flow is not going to be there, right? So I don't know if you're planning on giving up game 1 or game 2, but it behooves you to have the longer rests. By the way, the fact that we had a week off, I mean, Bronny's going to be 37 by the time this damn series is over. It's freaking ridiculous. But
pick 37 or 37 years old.
Both, unfortunately. Yeah. So that's what I say. Yeah, the rest I think definitely helps your Celtics.
Well, I'll say this: if I was divesting myself, and I know I've been careful talking about the series, but I really don't want to feel like, oh man, I feel like I jinxed us. But I'm just going to be honest. I think the Celtics are better. I think all the evidence says they're better. And if they don't win this series, I'm going to be about as disappointed in a Boston team as I've been in a long, long time, because they should win this. They really should. They have a better team.
Why should they? Why? On what basis? This is the thing. I've heard you do this. Why are you setting yourself up for this? I think Dallas is awfully close. I think this is very close. I think
Dallas
series.
is a really good team, but the Celtics to do what they did for the last 8 months, and then to just lose in the finals when they have home court advantage, to lose to Kyrie. Now, I like all the stuff Kyrie said, and I think, like, I hope the people in Boston have listened to him, because I think there's genuine remorse, and whatever. The guy was in a bad place when he played for the Celtics, and now he feels like he's in a different point. Whatever. I'm way more excited to boo Luka and go against Luka and make Luka the villain in this whole thing. I just think the Celtics are really, really good. And I hope that they tap into it. And the only way that they don't beat Dallas is if they miss a shitload of threes. They get into foul trouble over and over again in these games with their wings. And I don't know. I just think they have a better team. To me, Sal, the key with how to analyze Dallas is looking back at those 3 series, which I think we all won on the Clippers series.
Yeah.
And then OKC, I don't think any of us did well in that series, right?
No.
Because Luka kind of rope-a-doped us with how healthy he was, and then he got more healthy. That series is pretty close. And then Minnesota, throw that one out because Minnesota sucked and Dallas was great. But going backwards, like you look at the Oklahoma City series, for me, is the series that I think is going to resemble this series. Even though the teams are a little different, the way that OKC defensively, the fact that they do have good scores at the end of games. OKC had one. I think the Celtics have two. I don't think Brown gets enough credit. And they're just athletic. The Celtics are going to be able to switch on defense. They're going to be able to rebound better than OKC did. They're going to be able to protect the rim better than OKC did. But those OKC-Dallas games were close. And I just think Boston's a better version of OKC, which makes me think they should just beat Dallas. Does that sound crazy?
No, it doesn't sound crazy, but also just us analyzing this stuff, it sounds crazy because we're going to be wrong about like 2 or 3 of the games. You could really just like do matchups and you can do everything, but there is going to be a game where the Celtics go 4 for 27 from 3. There might be a game where I don't really know what happened with Minnesota. Like you want to say Celtics are a great defensive team. I think they were 3rd defensive efficiency. Minnesota was 1. And then we saw 3 players just decide to not play basketball again. Like you watch, the defense wasn't there at all. I had like a player prop on Gobert, 6+ rebounds. So I was watching him the whole game. He travels, and I don't mean travel. I mean, I think he goes a distance of 75 feet per game. He doesn't move at all. So what happens to some of these players in these games? You're going to be scratching your head for a couple of them. But that said, you probably have the better team. You know, you came a long way for this, and I feel like karma's going to get Dallas a little for tanking and getting Derek Lively. We'll talk about
the tanking. I like this
$750,000 fine. Not enough. Trade that in a second for what they got with Derek Lively.
Well, House, don't you think, just on paper, the Celtics have the best kind of team? Not to stop Dallas, but at least make them work for all the shots they're going to get. And Mazzulla, I thought, was really smart in his press conferences talking about, like, we're not going to shut these guys down. These guys are great players. We want to slow them down, make it hard for them. I know he has to say that publicly. I think one of their goals in this series is take out Kyrie as much as they can. And that's what OKC did. Kyrie averaged 16 points a game in the OKC series. Well, why? Well, they had Jalen Williams on him a lot. They were throwing Kason Wallace at him, right? They had some rim protection with Chet. And in general, they kind of moved the shots toward PJ Washington, who was unconscious the whole series. And then Luka made some big shots, and Dallas was able to win it. But why can't Boston? I'm not going to say they're going to take out Kyrie, but they can put size on him. They have rim protection, and they have Holiday and Derek White to throw on him. What makes anyone think Kyrie's going to average 25 plus in this series? I don't see it.
It's a strategic choice, and Oklahoma City made that choice, and then they lived with the outcome, which was PJ Washington shooting nearly 50% from 3, and Derek Jones Jr. shooting well from 3, and Josh Hardy shot reasonably well. Like they left the corner 3 to Dallas as the option, and they said, we dare you, second tier players, to go knock these down. And then they did, and that's why they lost the series. So it's a choice for sure for Boston. And I think Dallas is perfectly fine with the idea of Kyrie in a playmaking role as opposed to a scoring role. And, you know, the reintroduction of Maxi Kleber should be meaningful, right? That's a big guy who can shoot
small ball with him.
Yeah. And he's very comfortable from that 3-point line. It's an additional 3-point threat that Dallas, I think, would be like, oh, so you're going to take away Kyrie by using this defensive effort in that direction. Well, here are all the guys on the perimeter that we're pretty comfortable letting shoot, and we're going to live with that 3 ball.
Is it possible Minnesota just sucked in the last series? I know Dallas is really good, but man, you think like one of the things you're going to have to do, your top 2 guys are going to have to match the top 2 guys on Dallas, which they'll be in the 50 plus range combined, I would say minimum. Even if Kyrie is like 16, 18 a game, Luka's still going to be low mid 30s. So you have to somewhat match that. The Celtics all year, Tatum and Brown have been in the 50 to 60 range, right? Minnesota, Ant and Towns was just an abomination in that series. I mean, it's 8 for 33 from 3. And then Ant's stats were worse, and they just couldn't match the points. And that became this 8-point cushion for Dallas every game, which I just think Boston's going to be able to get close to matching those points, and then you throw in the other guys, and it gets a little easier. But is basketball that simple, Sal? Just like, hey, our two guys need to match the other two guys' point total, and we have a better team across the board other than that.
No, of course it's not that simple. None of the series resembled that. We saw sweeps and we saw the Minnesota one went 5, but you could have lost 2 games against Indiana. You could still be playing that
Probably
series.
Should have.
Yeah, and I think let's put it this way: if you're down 2-1 after 3 games, who are you MFing the most on the Celtics? Probably Missoula, right? It's probably like, why the hell are we putting Horford on Luka? Well, like, what the hell? What are we doing here? Why are we not figuring out the matchups? Why is he playing Porzingis so much? He's obviously not ready.
Why do we play Hauser this much? Yeah, I'm probably mad at Missoula if we're down 2-1.
Yeah, so I think the coaching mismatch, although slight, could make a difference in a overall matchup that's pretty close.
Hold on, we're not giving Jason Kidd a pronounced advantage in a coaching. Come on,
a little bit.
The guy was almost getting fired for a year and a half.
Yeah.
Well,
solid.
This Dallas team has not lost consecutive playoff games this entire run. They have adjusted and adjusted and adjusted. And he's been up against coaches that we are prepared to give flowers. Daigneault won Coach of the Year. I think he did a pretty good job against that dude. Chris Finch.
He did. He outcoached Daigneault.
The number 1 defense in the
Finch
entire
was crippled.
NBA.
He was fucking in the second row, limping around.
Was his brain crippled? By the way,
some of the stuff they did was pretty mentally crippling. Like, hey, guys, Luka's hot. Maybe send a second guy at him in game 5. Flames are shooting out of his ass. You're just staring at him. What are you guys doing? I don't know. Like I felt like they could have gotten Towns going a little bit more. The Kyle Anderson piece where they didn't really play him for a couple games. I'm looking at this big picture. This has been a 7-year odyssey with Brown and Tatum, all leading to this finals in this moment, right? And it's like, great. Luka's an awesome player, right? He's fucking incredible. But that they should still be able to beat a team that has one awesome player and then one really good offensive player and a bunch of role players. Like this team over and over again was beating everybody in the league. And now it's like, oh, it's the finals. Whoa, this is too much for us. Like, these guys have been in all of these huge games, the Celtics. You don't have the excuse of 22 of like, whoa, happy to be here. Oh, Tatum's so young. Oh, my God. And Derek White just got here. They don't have any excuses anymore. Like, they're never going to have a better chance to win the title.
I'm starting to get it, House. It's true. They really aren't. They had the easiest run in the playoffs. You got, you had Butler didn't finish the series. You had Mitchell didn't finish the series. You had Halliburton didn't finish the series.
Embiid was hurt, so their
didn't have
seed
to go
went
against
down.
Embiid. No,
Giannis and Dame. We skipped Giannis and Embiid. I get it.
Jokic. Yeah, like this is. I don't know. This is Boston Bruins-esque in that it's like, oh my God, what the hell can go wrong now? I don't know.
There's two things going on here, though. First of all, remember last June. Remember how much content this very podcast got out of the idea of should the Boston Celtics bring Jaylen Brown back? Should they pay him that giant amount of money? What have the Celtics done? What's that twosome done? This podcast got a ton of mileage out of that at the end of last year.
And what did I always say? Don't break them up.
Well, you got there. It took a little while. It took
I never wavered on that.
I don't know if there.
I never wavered on that.
There might be some receipts. We'll look for some wavering. No. I think there was some wavering.
I never wanted to break those guys up. The only thing that made
in 2 weeks he'll wave.
The only thing that made sense to me is if this season didn't go perfectly with the amount of money they're going to pay Brown, and this is another piece of why this season is so make or break. Tatum's going to get a $315 million contract extension in July, right? He's eligible for it. He's going to get it. So now you're going to have two guys making $600 million plus on top of some of the other pieces with this, whatever the second apron. I don't know what's going to look like the post-media deal, but they're probably not going to get a chance to stack a team with 6 really high-quality guys like this after next season. So to me, it's a 2-year window.
Well, he deserves it, and it's worth it because the Celtics, if everybody's healthy, are effing awesome. What happened after re-signing Jaylen Brown was Drew Holiday fell in your effing laps, and Kristaps Porzingis fell in your effing laps. And that made this incredible team that won 76 games, even with the annual injury to Porzingis, the problem in trying to figure out what the hell's going to happen here and why I keep trying to urge you to be cautious with the
I am
make
cautious.
or break or anything.
How can I sound more cautious?
You keep saying squandered opportunity. This is a make or break. I don't think that's proper because this Celtics team, has not played a really competitive basketball game since when? When was the last time they played a team with its full complement?
I know you're going to laugh,
everybody?
but I thought those 2 Indiana games in Indiana were super helpful. That team was playing really well. Like, however you feel about Indiana, that team was playing well. Nembhard was out of his mind. Like, he was making every kind of shot. They were playing really hard. They were on the road. They had to come back from behind in both games. And it's the kind of game like they would blow those games during the year every once in a while. So that made me feel a little better.
I like it. He's putting all the pressure on himself, and I think it's genuine too. I've been around you. We both been.
Why do it myself?
No,
how do I have pressure? I'm not playing.
You are
I'm just sitting next to my dad, giving him coke.
No, you're playing
going to all these games. You're flying to Dallas. This is great.
Wait, we got to Boston. Fly to Dallas.
All right, so you guys, impartial observers. House is a Washington fan. Sal, you don't even have a basketball team. You're just like you just travel around the earth betting on basketball games like Kung Fu.
I look at it through a different, what did you say, a lens, a prism? I don't know, House, but
what's House's smart guy term for that?
I don't need these games to be close like you guys do. And that's why I love the bet both sides -9.5, which is, by the way, up 16 units in the playoffs. Took a bit of a hit last round.
Amazing.
Well, it's thanks to your team by losing.
Can you explain that? Because we haven't talked about that on this podcast. So explain what you were doing.
Sure. It's easy. Just bet both teams in each game -9.5 points. So you're definitely going to lose one of them, right? Because there's never been a game where both teams have won by 10 or more points. So you're going to lose one side, but eventually the payout and the odds in your favor is going to be so great if Miami beats Boston in Boston by double digits as a double-digit underdog. If Cleveland beats Boston in Boston by double digits.
Well, you're talking like this is like 6-1 you're getting on a bet, so 7-1, like crazy.
Those two that I mentioned are probably like 11 or 12-1. So if you just stay with it, you're good. And I have something else once we go over game one things that I like too. But yes, that's kind of how. And the Mavs close things out with a +440 double-digit win against.
All right, so give me both of you guys who just follow basketball, give me your Tatum takes, because he's obviously not one of the best 4 players in the league, but he's at the top of that next level. He's been a first-team All-NBA guy. Is there a real, because I think the best bet, I'll just spoil it now, and a couple of people have mentioned this, it's on FanDuel. Celtics in 6 with Tatum to win the MVP is +650 on FanDuel. And if you use that profit boost token that they have on Wednesday, that you can get 30% bump on that. To me, this is a Tatum series. And even like you think that 42 club I always mentioned, like in the playoffs where he hasn't shot that great, he's still been 26, 10, and 6 for the entire playoffs, right? The list of guys heading into the finals who have been 25, 10, and 5 guys, I think he's like the 5th guy ever. And against this Dallas team, I think he has really good matchups against them. He's going to be able to rebound. I think he's going to shoot. I think he's going to be able to hopefully hit some threes and get to the line and do all the stuff he's done all season. And he's in a position, I think, to vault up a level. But how do each of you feel about Tatum watching from afar? What do you think, Sal? Where do you have him? What quarterback is he? Is he not quite Joe Burrow? Is he better than Dak Prescott?
Shit, he could be my guy. He really could be my guy.
Oh, come on.
Right? He could. I don't know. Why? I mean, I guess he's gotten technically.
I'm sorry, has Dak Prescott made a Super Bowl?
Raheem calls him NBA Brock Purdy.
Yeah,
I like that too.
But that's Raheem just,
that's Raheem getting in it.
That's just him getting in it. I'm not buying that. What did he call Belichick?
I don't know.
He had a similarly derisive thing for Belichick.
He should have done the roast. He should have done the Brady roast.
He should have.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead, Sal.
I'm a Jaylen Brown guy, and someone needs to explain to me why he is. I go the other way. Plus, it's 700 now to win MVP.
It's
now
crazy.
He won the MVP of the Eastern Conference Finals. Maybe you could help me because I know they get like an athletic writer and they get somebody from the local papers of the teams playing, and then they have like the Doris Burks who's covering, and it was like 9. He won 5-4. Do you get a vote in this?
No, I think it's the people that are there.
Right. And then there's like a few others. So it's similarly, I think it's going to be a similar committee of 9.
So I have a theory on this. I haven't told you guys this. Why his odds? Because I think his odds should be like Jalen's odds should be like 3-1 plus 325, something like that. I think Vegas is factoring in the foul trouble house.
Oh, okay.
Because I think Jalen's going to have the biggest defensive burden in the series. Because they need, if it's a choice between who do we have to keep on the court to keep the offense running, so much of it runs through Tatum. And that was one of the reasons he even got the 4 Eastern Conference vote for MVP, even though he didn't shoot that well. Because he was doing so many things. Like he's basically becomes point forward for them. A lot of the offense runs through him. He's their best rebounder. And they kind of need to have him out there. And Jalen has taken on the bigger defensive burden, which in this case means he could be guarding Kyrie and Luka at various times. And I wondered, would that make sense why his odds are off? Because they feel like he's going to get in foul trouble?
I was going to posit the theory that having just won the conference award, there's no chance that he's going to win MVP of the finals. That was the one that he's going to get, and that the voters, having just rewarded him, are not, unless he has an absolutely dominant performance, which doesn't seem like it's in the cards. Like he doesn't have enough usage if Celtics use Tatum the way they want. So I think, to me, it's a 2-horse race for MVP.
Wow. I think Jalen has to be in there. I do think he could just have a really good series and his defense and people, because I think the people that watch the Celtics think he's better than the outside world just because of his two-way stuff. He really went up a level this year. I've been super impressed by him.
Let me just say this. One of the votes Tatum got was from the Indianapolis Star writer. So, they tell you who voted, and there's 9 of them. And Tim Bontemps and Doris Burke and Carlissimo, they all. So I think most of them will be back, but I don't know. Is it possible he's not as likable, Tatum, as you want him to be? Because he was like minus 1,200 to win this award at halftime of game 4. So I don't know what the hell happened.
I didn't think his shooting was good enough. Do you think Luka's plus 210? But if Pat McAfee calls him a white bitch before game time, would that go up or down, Sal? How does that? Would the finals odds get affected by that?
I'm just kidding. He just apologized for that. He apologized, yes, proactively for calling Luka a white bitch. So that's good. Get
ahead of time before he even does it.
Yeah, that's smart.
I happened to watch that apology this morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You teared up a little bit.
Yeah, it was emotional stuff. Mullet guy number 2 was tearing up. It was really great. Luka's plus 210, which raises the old argument of if you're going to bet the Mavericks, why not just bet Luka? The odds are slightly better, which we go through every year with the quarterback in the Super Bowl. Right. I don't know, Sal, I know you keep track of this. It's pretty.
Yeah.
Like if you like the Chiefs, bet Mahomes. If you like the Mavericks, bet Doncic. I think that's the way to go.
Pretty much, but I don't think that football's ever seen an Andre Iguodala win before at 100-1, right?
Yeah, I mean this year that would be Drew Holiday or Derek White, and there's a Brian Barrett loves the Derek White 35-1 odds because, from like if you go back and you watch the 2 Maverick Celtic games, like they really attacked Kyrie in the January game, right? And they, you look at Minnesota, Mike Conley's in his mid to late 30s at this point, and was like, let's run our offense through Mike Conley and have him attack Kyrie. They didn't really have that. He didn't have to guard SGA in the other series. OKC had Giddey, who nobody had to guard. And then the Clippers, Kawhi was hurt, so they could kind of focus everything on Harden and George. In this series, Derek White could slip through the cracks, and they could run a lot of stuff with him. He could hit a bunch of threes. 35-1 seems a little crazy, House. If that's your Iguodala of this series, like that would involve Tatum not shooting great, Jalen getting in foul trouble, and then having to look at a third Celtic.
I don't like it. I'm not going in that direction. I feel
so
like
who would be your Iguodala pick then?
Nobody. There are no Iguodala picks. I think we're past that now. I think we're at the point we have between.
So you're only star power. That's it.
Yes, exactly right. Yes.
You don't like
he
Derek
won't get
Lively
enough
at
shots.
500-1.
He won't be able to fill up the stat sheet enough. I mean, if you're saying Derek Lively and Derek White have the same basic odds for the thing,
No, Derek White has better odds.
Well, Iguodala got it because he was defending LeBron for a lot of it, right? Like that. There has to be
so if Derek White took out Kyrie and then hit a bunch of threes, that would be the recipe.
Right.
What about the theory that Dallas hasn't had to play a 5-out team yet? Because the Celtics they can just spread the floor with the 5 3-point shooters, which means the rim protectors, one of them has to come out and guard somebody, and then the lane opens up, and then. But that would involve Porzingis playing well and hitting threes, and then Horford not looking like he's 38 years old. House is making faces.
Well, only because wasn't that supposed to be the Oklahoma City team?
No, because they couldn't. Because Giddey. They just didn't have to worry about Giddey ever.
They were supposed to be, but they weren't because one guy sucked. He sucked, and he really shouldn't have been on the floor under any circumstances. Yeah. Coach of the year, Mark Dagnon, didn't figure it out, apparently.
House throwing shots at Dags.
Well, I mean, they played like a team that was brand new to the playoffs and brand new to the adjustments that the playoffs require. But, the whole thing boils down to, and we'll know, like, I think in the first 4 minutes, how's the zinger moving? Show me his lateral movement. How's he get from 3-point line to 3-point line? How will he go in and try and grab a rebound? Like that, we'll know. I think immediately how confident he is, what his mobility looks like, and that will chart the whole thing. I honestly feel like I want to live bet the series price within the first 4 minutes of game one. Cause that's what I wanted. I think because it's all up to like if he's moving and he looks good. And they've been rope-a-doping. Oh, we're not sure. He might come back. Oh, we're being cautious. If he's out galloping up and down the floor and looking like the dude for the majority of that Celtics run, the most efficient offense of the season in the NBA, then it's like, oh, well, okay, the Celtics are ready. But I'm not. Let's see it. I need to see it.
Well, the case for the rope-a-dope would be he was going to play in Game 5 of the Indiana series if that series wasn't a sweep. Mm-hmm. And that would have been over a week ago. So that's why I'm wondering if they're being a little coy with this. And the injury he had, which is a 3 to 4 week injury. Now, granted, he's tall. He's got long legs. He's had some mystery with knees and below injuries, and you be careful anyway. But 37 days feels like if you're not recovering from that injury in a month and a half, basically, then that feels like that's maybe a little bit.
Yeah, those are similarly, those are terrible odds for him to win MVP. 33-1. Like he's a better bet than Derek White or Drew Holiday or some of those other guys we mentioned. Like, yeah, what would he have to do, Porzingis, to win MVP?
I mean, he'd have to go 25-8 every game, and I don't see it. I also don't think he's going to play enough minutes. Yeah, they'll pull him anytime any game's not close. That's another thing with the Celtics team, which Sal, from the -9.5s, like they have killed teams. There was crazy stats from them during the season of, like 50 plus wins that were 10 points or more, and even in the playoffs, like Brian Barrett talked about this on his podcast, like that Miami series, which everyone's like, wow, how'd Miami get a game off the Celtics? If you actually look at the overall stats, that was one of the biggest destructions of a 5-game opponent that's been in the last 2 decades of the league. Like they killed them in every game except for the one they lost.
Take the 16.5s, 19. Well, here's the other thing I'll say. If you don't love this -9.5 each way, FanDuel offers like Celtics, like say for game one, trail by 10 or more and win the game at +430. And you could take the other side, Mavs trail by 10 or more and win the game at +700. And oftentimes,
I say take that every game.
You take it every game, and sometimes both teams have been down by 10 points. So then you're just sitting there like, all right.
You beat me to it.
It's impossible to lose.
I'll just connect.
I would bet both. So, I mean, you can make fun of me. I would just bet both.
Take them both.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Why not?
House, were you satisfied with how Dallas's opponents attacked Luka and Kyrie on defense? And I know Kyrie's defense was better than usual. And I actually like some of the stuff Luka did defensively where, his hands were on a lot of balls. I thought he was jumping passes and he was picking pockets, but in general, that's been a pretty good recipe in the past. And I'm not sure Minnesota was fully equipped to do it. OKC was a little better equipped. The Clippers against them really tried to do it. But do you feel like that's still sitting there for the Celtics?
It should be. This is the thing. There was a quiet undercurrent of criticism of Minnesota for not trying to put Luka in more uncomfortable positions defensively.
Put some miles on him.
The problem Minnesota had and has is who is going to do it. It's only Anthony Edwards. You have every minute with Rudy Gobert on the floor means you're playing 4-on-5 defense, and that just creates too much leeway for Luka to not be in the position where he's caught on an island. And so the Minnesota thing, this was the one vulnerability. It was kind of the thing we circled at the beginning of the year. Their half-court offense was just not up to par to make it to the NBA Finals, it turns out, which is not that big of a criticism, really.
No, they had one other issue, too, that I can't believe we didn't fully think about before that series, though. They just didn't have anyone. They didn't have the right guy to guard Luka. And for some reason, I thought it was going to be McDaniels. And then you watch a half of one game and you're like, man, he's too small. Luka feels like it was almost like watching a tight end with a cornerback on him, you know, where he just seemed, and that's one thing that I feel really good with the Celtics. I think they have real size to throw at him, and he's going to get to 39 and 11 every game. I mean, that's when you're talking about bets, game by game bets, which I know we're going to go to after this break. The Luka points, rebounds, and assists all together, I think, is some of the safest action. Really, the only way you're going to probably not hit those is in a blowout.
Yeah.
Because usually they're like in the 47, 48 range, right, Sal?
Yeah, right in there. Yeah, because he's about 31, 32 points. So, 9 and 8. Yeah, so that would be right 40, right up high 40s there. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm just excited about the entertainment factor with Luka and him complaining and calling for. I honestly, do you guys think it should be a stat? You got your rebounds, assists, steals.
Oh, keep track of it?
How many challenges you've called for that were confirmed? Like, don't you want to see that? Like
LeBron would be the career leader.
LeBron, no one would touch LeBron.
It'd be LeBron and Luka in the finals. And then I feel like somebody random. There'd be some random like bench player who like a Kelly Oubre or somebody.
It's a more devastating stat than I think like plus minus. Like, look, when they go for a contract extension, like, hey, you cost us 14 challenges. You were minus 14 in challenges.
We know people at FanDuel. Let's talk them in. This is the bitch bets. Let's get some bitch bets going.
Yeah.
How many, the combination of bitches and calls for a replay over under per game. It's like, what is it? 14 and a half. The number of times Luka either bitches at a call or calls for a replay. I'm setting that number at 14 and a half. A minute. It's definitely in the double digits, right?
It might be a little high, but he has shoved someone to the floor and complained.
No, you guys have, because I saw it in person at the Clipper games. It's twice as many if you're watching
Is it
in
really?
person.
Oh,
he's doing it after every play.
Really?
And I remember talking about it after one of the pods. It's part of like his persona shtick thing with the refs. He's relentless. I've never seen a better player spend more time on this. It's after every break. Anytime somebody's shooting free throws, he's looking around. He goes after whatever ref is the closest. He's always like has his hands out like somebody that just like had his car stolen and was trying to explain like, you don't understand. My car was right there. It's gone.
Do a State Farm ad. That sounds like a good State Farm.
I swear it works because you could tell these refs like, all right, fine, fuck it. All right, fine. That was a charge. You fine. Just please stop yelling at me. And
you know it's work because Draymond's rolling his eyes in the studio. He's like, even I wouldn't.
I honestly, House, I can't think of another player I've ever seen because some of the great players did it a lot. Like Bird did a lot. Magic did it a lot. We've grown up with
Duncan at the end of his career did it.
Duncan was good at it, but not like. Dirk would work it every once in a while, but not like this. This is constant. He's putting like real pressure. It's like he's blitzing the referees play after play, but it's really smart. Yeah. A couple quick things for you, just to talk about the pressure on the Celtics team that I wanted to mention. I think the Celtics have a real chance to be the king of the city, which has only happened a couple times this century. Because mostly this happens because the other teams are bad. The Red Sox started a lineup that had Bobby Dahlbeck 7th today, who I think's hitting 150 career. They're just fine. People are so out on them. It's unbelievable. The Bruins lost in round 2 again, and it feels like they're at the end of some sort of era. The Patriots are rebuilding. There were odds. My dad told me today about the Patriots have the best odds to get the number 1 pick in 2025. You can bet on it, and they're the favorite right now. And the Celtics are just sitting there, 6 out of the last 8 conference finals. Tatum is by far the most famous athlete in the city. They have a chance to win a title. So I went through the last 30 years. The only other times where you could say a team was unquestionably king of the city, the Patriots in 2015 after Deflategate, when they came back, when the Malcolm Butler game, and it was like New England against the world. And none of the other teams were doing that great that year. So that was a good one. The 99 Red Sox, everyone was terrible. And the 96 Patriots. But it's weird. The Boston teams have had so much success. But now we're at this, it's been 5+ years since the last title. And the Celtics by far I know House is making faces, but the Celtics are by far the best chance.
No, we love this. This is great.
No, I knew you guys, I'm doing this just for House because he hasn't won. Well, you won a hockey title.
In 2018 Stanley Cup, 2019 World Series. Stanley Cups and World Series still count.
House won. Sal won a Super Bowl in '95.
Shut up! Barely. Yeah.
You won the '86 World Series.
It's been so long. No,
wow, that's
you think
a long
the Celtics?
Drought. What about the Sal drought? Jesus Christ!
It's been a long time. You think the Celtics have, like, they told the other teams, like, hey, Red Sox, go start a quadruple A shortstop today because we need to be the
no.
king of
I
the city.
think I guarantee the Celtics are like, this is great. The Kraft Belichick thing blew up.
Yeah,
Kraft's been a maniac the whole offseason. The Red Sox made the worst trade in the last 75 years of the city, and had this crap team. And the Bruins have kind of, they're moving into whatever the next era for them is. I'm sure they're delighted by all.
Well, let me
this.
just say
But they have to win the title to cap it off.
Sure, the only thing they'd share it with would be the roast. Like if the roast happened in July, that's the only competition, I think.
Oh, that's
right?
true.
As
The
big as
roast
that
was great. House just said something inappropriate because the other thing I have for you guys, that whole best player in the finals usually wins the finals, which is true for the most part. LeBron in 14 and 11 didn't win. Kobe in 08 and 04 didn't win. Magic in 89. Moses in 81. And then you could go 2015 through 2019 and LeBron versus Curry, Kawhi versus Curry, LeBron versus Durant. It's pretty hard. It's probably, you could argue both ways on it, but it is fairly rare. And I think Luka is the best player in this series. Yeah. So the question to me is, could Tatum rise at least in the vicinity? He's not going to be as good as Luka, but could he be in the vicinity? House is making a face.
No, I like this. Because I didn't get to weigh in. I adore that bet that you offered up a little while ago. I absolutely love Celtics in 6.
With Tatum
to win the MVP.
Yes, plus 650.
I love that bet.
Okay.
And that means it's square. So everybody be careful out there. That means it's a square bet. If I love it, then that's it. But
don't you think the best player on the court wins the title thing is going to drift further and further from the norm as we see variance? And you guys are talking about variance all the time with 3-pointers. So it might not even be the best player on the court's fault that he lost. It's just that the threes are raining up around him or her, as it may be, and they're either going in or missing at a horrific rate.
That's a great point because A, 3-point variance, B, the league's just deeper.
Yeah.
And to have the best guy in a series, I don't think means as much as it did in the mid-2000s when you had guys playing major minutes in a rotation that probably weren't that good. The guys now, like, you look at both teams, like the top, really it's a 7-man rotation in the finals, and then if anyone else plays up. But the 7-man rotations on these teams are really good. All right, Sal, give us some bets you're looking at. Let's hear it.
All right.
Let's go.
First of all, maybe I've talked too much about Jaylen Brown here, but if you don't like him for MVP, I like him for top scorer plus 750 for one game. He'll get it for one game. So give it to me, right? So if you just keep betting him, this is for game one, you get him at plus 750.
So you're saying take Jaylen Brown every game, top scorer, plus 750.
It's not going to go 8 games, right? So I think, maybe he doesn't have a 40 in him, but I think he will be the top scorer for one of them. But I got should we?
Wait, House, what do you think of that one?
I'm fine with that. I like that one. And it feels like it should happen in the first 2 games, to be honest with you. It feels like it's a cash in game 1 or game 2 in the way that now, did Tatum outscore him in game 1 of the Pacers game because of how well Tatum played in that overtime?
Yeah, he
Pacers?
did.
So he ended up jumping over Jalen.
I mean,
because of
I
all
said
the points
this on
he
the
scored in
pod.
overtime.
I said this to Russillo. If you just talk to any basketball fan, they would think Kyrie has better scoring stats than Jalen Brown. It's just not true the last 4 years. Like Jalen's playoff stats are better. His stats are better this year. He's averaging 25 a game in the playoffs, which is up from he was like a 22, 23 a game guy, but he's just better this year. Like he has a power game that he didn't really totally have the last couple of years. He doesn't lose the ball in traffic like he used to. And he's just, this is the best he's ever played. So I like that one, Sal. What else do you got?
Right. Thank you. How about this? Derek Lively, most rebounds in the series. Now, I know he's not favored by any means. Tatum's probably going to win that, but he had 53 in his last 5 full games. Now, if people stop hitting him in the freaking head so much, like dropping him, like swinging him around like a 6-year-old, fewer headhunters, I think, on the Celtics. 12-1 seems too high for most rebounds.
I like that because I think we're going to see more of him than Gafford in this series because of the Celtics being able to play the 5 out.
Yeah,
I did that rebound bet a few times in these playoffs, and I would always text them. And Jokic was money, but then in the Oklahoma Dallas series, I had Chet Holmgren, who I think finished like 7th.
Yeah, right.
He was in the running for my worst bet of 2024.
That was terrible. We knew right
Other
away.
Than betting
right?
betting against the Chiefs with Lamar Jackson was probably still my number one, being convinced that they were going to win. What else you got, Sal?
I got one more big one. Derek White, most threes. We talked about him earlier. Plus 330. He's had 2 or more in 8 of his last 10. He's taking a lot too. He averages 8.5 attempts over the last 5. And not many close to that when you look at attempts. He had 7 in one game against the Cavs. He had 4 a few times in the playoffs overall. I think plus 330 is a nice number for him.
You have any house that you love?
Just so I interestingly enough had circled Derek White. He's available on the FanDuel Sportsbook at -113. It's both sides of this prop for him to average 14.5 points per game. I think that's an awesome number
in the series.
For the series, 14.5 -113. The over and the under are the price the same. It's -113. I love the over because I do think usage wise, he is going to get a ton of touches, a ton of looks. And that guy is a guy that I trust. Like I believe in him in the big moments, converting those touches. And this is the thing that when we're trying to slice and dice the outcome of this finals, very quietly, Derek White and Drew Holiday are going to control the outcome of this. To me, that's the way. That's why I thought your argument about Drew Holiday as the potential MVP for the Pacers, I totally agree with that. That Pacers series, Drew Holiday, what he did in the dirty work, in the behind the scenes work, that's really what changed the trajectory of that. Now they did sweep them, but still, I thought Holiday was awesome for that.
That was a hard one to figure out with that award, and we should remember that for the conference finals next year. Because I left the series, and I would have voted for Drew, but I thought it was going to be Drew or Jalen. And then as Sal pointed out, it was Jalen 5 votes, Tatum 4, Drew 0. And I thought Drew had like such a monster impact, and he's such an amazing player for a series like this because not only can he guard Kyrie, but he can guard Luka a little bit too. And he's just jumping around, and he just I absolutely love having these two guys in the team. That's another thing that makes me think: are they really going to lose the finals with this cool team they have? With like these 2 forwards, and they're
7 years old. What is
it's just like
so
these
dumb.
2 forwards close to their prime, and these 2 awesome guards, and these centers that can shoot. It's like God, they're going to lose.
Might. How about maybe?
I know.
And then they can try again next year. I mean, they're pretty effing good. It's the whole team. We'll be back next year.
I'm setting myself up for real sadness. I have one that I really like. So, and it's 2 actually, and I like one more than the other, but I kind of like them both. Luka for the series is 30.5 points a game. Mm-hmm. And I think that's too low because especially if you look at finals history of great players in the finals and guys that have the ball a lot, the stats always go up, not down because the minutes go up.
Right.
And they're going to be able to have, especially in the first 3 games where it's Thursday, Sunday, Wednesday, they're just going to be able to play him like 43, 44 minutes and not have to worry about it. And then same thing when you get to game 5, game 6, 7, you have the same bumper. So him just averaging 31 a game, he's going to, like, one of the reasons I think Celtics in 6, he's going to have the one game where he just destroys them, right? Where he has like 49 points, some crazy. Mm-hmm. So let's give him like a 47-point game or a 45. Let's give him 45. Let's be conservative. He is one awesome game. And it's a 6-game series. And he would have to score, according to this, 185 points in the 6 games. So if I'm taking 45 out and he's got to go 145 games for the rest of it, it's 28 a game. Like, he's going to get that. So
that's good. I think the only thing to worry about there, as a proponent of the -9.5, is a blowout with 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and they want to rest him. That's the only thing.
Solid
Otherwise, you're good.
And then the other one is Kyrie, which I like just as much. I think Kyrie under 23.5, because his playoff history. We're talking a 39-game sample size the last 4 years, and he's 22 a game. He had a big series against Minnesota, but that was also a great matchup for him, especially with how they're guarding him. I think the Celtics are going to be way more determined not to have him score, right? And they're going to be hunting him on defense, trying to put miles on him. And that jumped out at me as a tiny bit too high. I also like the Jaylen Brown 23.5, I think is low, because they're going to need him. And he's a 25-point a game guy, House. So I would take those 3, and I feel like you go 2 for 3 on those.
Yeah. Okay. Great. I support that. I don't.
I like the way
when we're all doing.
The dog just showed up in the frame.
Wow, he did. He's an underdog.
Take the Mavericks.
Is that underdog a bad sign that we just had a dog? Does that mean the dogs are live?
We had 3 overs and only 1 under. I want to do some more unders. That's the lesson that we've learned. Not enough unders. You had to be careful out there.
So Sal, did you like White 14.5 over? You like that one?
Yeah, I mean, if I like him for 3, he's all over the place. I have to like White 14.5. But I do caution. Like, they do try to suck you into like a lot of these overs. So if you think there are going to be some defensive games, we're going to be in a little bit of trouble, maybe.
And the top point scorer for the series, Luka at -180, Tatum at +260. I actually thought Luka was going to be like 3-1. Because Tatum's been so unselfish this year. Like, 30 points is a lot of work for him. That means something else is going wrong with the team.
That price feels right to me, and I wouldn't mess with it. There's no reason.
It's a stay away for you?
No, I think you should do it. This is as good an emotional hedge, I think, as you could get, because you could have Luka be the top scorer and the Celtics could still win the title. And then
I like that a lot.
I told you so. It was all over the place. So, like threading the needle, like House said, and with the hashtag and everything.
I can't do emotional hedges with this series. I'm going to be with my dad.
You really can't. You're so invested already. I just don't understand it.
This is my dad's 10th finals.
Yeah.
First one was nice. 1974. He's 51 years later. He's back. We weren't sure after last year what the hell was going to happen with this team. And now we've won 1 title with the Celtics since 86. I know House doesn't want to hear it because he hasn't won since 78. But
well, what's the record? What's Doc's record? Are they 5-4? What are they going into this 10th finals?
No, he won in 74, 76, 81, 84. So we started out 4-0, lost in 85 and 87.
6-3.
Won in 2008, lost in 10, 9, lost in 22.
Okay.
So what's that, 6-3?
I think 6-3.
No, 6-4, 5-4.
5-4, one or the other.
Yeah. I wish any of us could count. Anyway, it's his 10th one. Another thing about this series, the tickets are like impossible, because when they had the 22, there was like post-COVID, some of the season ticket holders like sold their tickets back, and in general, some people are afraid to be in arenas, and so the prices, even though the Warriors weren't that high, this one is like fucking crazy. And
well, you know what? I'll make some calls for you, pal. You've done enough for me. I'll see if I can get you. I'll get you into one of these games.
Can I do a fake bet? Can we go to the Riverboat Casino?
Yeah, let's do it. Where are we going?
Will Mark Cuban be courtside for game 1 and game 2 of the finals? What would you
1
put for
and
odds
2.
on that? He's been on the bench for all these games.
I think it's pretty even. No, I think he will be. I think he'll be courtside. Minus 240.
What are we saying? Courtside versus being in that sort of bench section where he is, where he's very prominently featured. The camera finds him every time. What are we doing? He's like going to be sitting like courtside, like on the court.
Is he going to be where he normally is, or because he doesn't own the team anymore and because it's the finals, does he move to a different area where he's a little less prominent?
He negotiated. He gets to be in his spot. He's in the normal Mark.
So
Cuban.
You're going same prominent kind of TV time for Cuban.
Yeah, along with the bench, he's like cheering with the bench guys.
Sal, you agree with that?
Yeah, I think so. I think he's.
So
right
what would you put, like minus 140?
I thought it was going to be a little higher, but
or like minus 180. I'm going the other way. I think he's
really.
Yeah, I thought that Dallas celebration was really interesting when the new guy took the trophy. Cuban was not on the podium, and I think when we get to the finals, my spidey senses are telling me Cubes is kind of getting pushed to the side. They're like, oh yeah, you're still going to... And now it's like, now we own the team. We see this happen in football all the time, right?
Yeah, that's true.
It's one of many things. Who do you think's the biggest Boston celeb that's going to be at this game? Series.
Your dad.
Belichick?
Your dad will be one.
Belichick?
Belichick show up there?
Do we get Affleck or Damon?
100%.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm going to say 100%.
Damon. Yes.
Yeah.
Are they both bigger than Marky
They're the biggest.
Than
Affleck and Damon are the biggest.
They're bigger than Wahlberg.
They're the biggest. They're our Nicholsons, basically.
You'll be arm's distance from them, right? You'll all be in the same section. Don't you think?
I'm with my dad. I'm in the same seats he's had this whole time. My dad.
How about this?
Retired superintendent, still cranking it along in row 4.
I love it. Will Bill Walton be mentioned in the post-series, interview right there on the court?
On the podium? No question. Well, that's the other thing is they got to do like a really cool thing for him before the game. And he's an absolutely beloved Celtic.
Right.
And also considered himself a Celtic. Like he would call the Celtics and say, it's Bill Walton, class of 1986. Like that's how much he was drinking the Celtic Kool-Aid. So yeah, I think they're going to do something pretty great for them. What do you think for a Star Spangled Banner? That's not going to be, we won't have any of those, right?
I don't know. I wish they did have, I wish it was a bigger deal. They had a week to figure this
kids?
out.
Could we get the new kids for one of these?
Oh, that would be good.
That'd be pretty good. Yeah. I would. Not new kids over Aerosmith though, right?
All right. So we're all taking Celtics in 6.
We all have Celtics in 6. I did have a question for you. I'm bummed that you don't have an MVP vote for this. Is this one of those things they'll like ask you 5 minutes before, like, hey, we need your vote? Like, didn't they do that with you once?
I shouldn't be allowed to have when the Celtics are involved. I should not have a vote.
I know, but it is like the beat
rationally.
Reporters. I know they do have. Anyway, the fact you have an MVP vote, is that your most cherished possession in the world?
My MVP vote?
Don't say your wife and kids, because that's bullshit anyway.
I think it's your wife and kids. No, that's a pretty good one. But there's a lot of responsibility with it now, with the All-NBA, with like the price bumps, like Tyrese Halliburton. It's a $30 million difference if you vote for him or not vote for him. I don't know. There's more. It's less fun than it used to be.
But if they took that away and they took your,
I'd be furious.
Sure you have a Jordan rookie card, which whatever you could just.
I'd rather have the Jordan rookie card. It's a safe deposit box. Yeah, I mean, I have some good cards.
Buy another one. You can't get this vote back. All right.